All right, so we left off on the Chinese building the railroad for us, and I promise you we will revisit that far more in depth in the next unit. But right now we are still looking at the events that happen under the Manifest Destiny idea. And we had talked about the Homestead Act. And it is important to note, again, that homesteaders, as they were sometimes called, or pioneers, although they're not really pioneering anything. Like this, the idea of a pioneer makes them sound like they were the first to do it, and really they're not. Again, there was many indigenous tribes in the West first. These people are only pioneers because they were the first white people to do it. So keep that in mind. And life is difficult. The land is very hard to farm. People are not used to this. If you're going from very different climates and zones, and if you've never traveled across the United States, you might be shocked. It's really like different countries. It's not even state by state, region by region. They're very different. So if you are coming from the Northeast where you have the Atlantic Ocean and you're up in the Northeast corridor in, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, the New England states, you're getting seasonal weather. You have crops like corn and squash, and you've got rain and snow and summer and winter. And if you're further west and further south, you have absolutely none of that. You've got in the southwest, you've got cacti and aloe plants and citrus trees. These things do not grow in the Northeast. So homesteaders who are moving to the plains and the western region of the United States are not well prepared for what they're going to find there. There's also a lack of building materials. You have to know how to use the land you're on. There's not a lot of lumber available in some places, so you better be able to make a house out of something else. Tornadoes, harsh weather, it gets really cold when there's no tree cover at night. Insects that you've maybe never seen before. All of this stuff is waiting for you out west. Don't you want to go? It's also very expensive to ship things. Once the railroad is built, you still need to get things into you. And it's just like today, it's more expensive to ship things when they're further away. And refrigeration has not really taken hold yet, so you can't really ship anything that's going to spoil. Occasionally we do see success in some of these farmsteads, and you'll have what is called a bonanza farm, where these are huge farms that are going to hire additional labor and they are going to become super profitable. But for the most part, homesteaders are not living on these huge farms, and a lot of them are not even living in houses. They're living in sod houses. Now, it's not a house, but it's not the house that you expect made out of lumber and wood. Sod houses are made out of the land, and sometimes they're just built right into the side of the, whatever you want to call it, hill. But if you are able to bring some lumber with you or some supplies, the sod, the mud, is what's holding the house together. And so, as you can imagine, there's a lot of insects and bugs coming. Obviously, insects and bugs. I meant insects and rodents coming into your house. There isn't really a way to keep them out. There's also not a lot of water in some places, so you need to figure out how to irrigate your land and irrigate your crops. If it's raining and your house is made out of sod, it's going to mud up. And who knows what could happen. You better hope that you've built it sturdy enough that it doesn't collapse. And if a tornado comes, you're just kind of a mess. That is also on top of what's going on in the fields with the weather. If it's too dry, the crops die. If it's too wet, the crops flood. Again, there's insect swarms that are going to eat your crops. So yes, the land is cheap. And yes, you can have your own land. But it doesn't come easy. And a lot of farmers lose money. They face really high debts, and a lot of them get their tools foreclosed on. I don't want to say farm because they don't really have a farm, but the tools that they rented to farm would be foreclosed on, which means that the bank or whoever they borrowed the money from is coming back for that money. And if they're not getting them, they're taking the tools back. And if you lose your tools, you can't farm anymore. So again, with the railroad expansion, this alleviates it a little bit, but it doesn't help that much. And you might wonder why people still go west after this. And you can thank the gold rush for that. So during this time period, we do have another president, President James K. Polk. You may remember him from some earlier wars. You may not. He's not super memorable. Sorry to any James K. Polk ancestors or lovers out there. But he is just a guy. However, he is a very big proponent of westward expansion. And one of the things that he really wants is the land in the Oregon Territory that is currently in 1844 being controlled by the British. And so this is going to become a problem for James K. Polk because he thinks that the U.S. has the right to this land and we are going to take it whether Great Britain likes it or not. So back in 1818, we had made a deal with Great Britain that we would share this land. Under the 1827 Treaty of Joint Occupation, this allows land settled for both countries to claim. So we had agreed back in 1827 with Great Britain that we will let them claim the land if they settle it. And so Britain has claimed some of this land, and they don't want to cede those claims. They want that land for themselves. And so James K. Polk, in his infinite wisdom, decides, like we like to do, we're going to draw a line at the 49-degree latitude line, which is the Canadian-Washington border. And Great Britain says, no, that's our land. You made a deal with us. That is part of our land. You're not having that. So, what can you do, right? You got to do something. And so, Great Britain is faced with a choice. You can either make a deal with America and give up that little chunk of land, or you can fight. It is 1850. No, it's not 1850. It's 1844. It is important to note that one of James K. Polk's presidential campaigns was that not only was he going to annex Texas as a new slave state, but he was going to take the Oregon Territory. So Great Britain has a choice and the United States has a choice. And again, James K. Polk draws the line at the 49-degree latitude line and says, this is ours. And Great Britain has not assess. I cannot do this today, you guys. Great Britain has to make a decision. And as reports get back to Great Britain, they do realize under current circumstances that it's not going to be as easy to defend this territory against an American attack that it might have been 20, 30 years ago. So Queen Victoria and Parliament in June 1846 agree to this division at the 49th parallel, the one James K. Polk set. So we get what we wanted. Great Britain scoots off up there into the Canadian territory, and we get that land below the 49th parallel. High five to us. But Texas is a little bit more difficult. And without California being what it is, and without this gold rush, Texas may not have become that important. Probably would have, but the gold rush and this concept of the idea that there is all this gold out west and in California and that area really pushes for us to take more land with Texas, which is going to lead us to a lot more problems.